Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
Well, it's day 3 of our literature unit. And typically, I was just saying this to Tom, we'll talk about the author's story himself or herself, whether it's a guy or a girl. This time it's a guy who wrote this book. But rather than focus on him, we're going to talk about some of the implications of the book, some of the themes that come across in the book, and what the author may have been wanting to try to communicate. So we're going to be focusing in on that, but as we always do, we're going to read through day 3 first.
The Blind Side is a true story about a poor black boy who becomes a successful football player with the support of a privileged white family. In American football, the blind side is usually the quarterback's left side because they turn to the right to pass the ball with their dominant hand. This leaves their left side exposed and vulnerable. The left tackle is assigned to defend the quarterback's blind side. This is the position that Michael Oher plays. The blind side could also refer to the substantial number of unnoticed disadvantaged youths in American society. Children like Michael's brothers and sisters never get the chance to achieve their dreams because they don't have any support. If Stephen's dad had not brought Michael to Briarcrest, or if the Tuohys had not adopted Michael, he would not have been able to realize his full potential. His size makes him noticeable. Many agree that he was born to play football. But how many kids in Hurt Village, where Michael grew up, were born to play piano or study physics? Society is blind to them because their potential isn't valued. Racism is also prevalent throughout Michael's life. He acknowledges that because of his status as a football star, most people treat him differently. Briarcrest most likely would not have allowed him in if he had not been a promising athlete. Most people notice Michael's size first, but the Tuohys are different. They notice his emotional needs. Their generosity and kindness allow them to care for Michael, even though many people are still racist to him. The story of Michael Oher is a reminder that everyone deserves a chance in life.
Okay, guys, it's day 3 of our literature unit, and we're going to focus on some of the themes and motivations, maybe of our author, and some of the things that are just communicated in this particular story of Michael Oher. If you look him up, he's a handsome guy. And in comparison to the other folks in his family, his adoptive family, the Tuohys, he doesn't look massive or huge. So it's kind of fun to look up some of these people. I love stories about real-life successes. Especially people who had a hard time starting out and then turn their lives around and become successful and then help other people. Currently, Michael Oher is trying to help other people with the Tuohys charity. They have an organization that they help kids, but he also has his own called Beat the Odds, which I think is great. So let's dive in. The Blind Story is a true story about a poor black boy who becomes a successful football player with the support of a privileged white family. If you're privileged, you were born into circumstances that allow you to have a good education, to have parents who care about you, take care of you. You don't go hungry. You have enough clothes. So a lot of us should be very grateful. Taiwan is a place where there are a lot of privileged homes. We have a lot of people who are able to go to school and not worry about not having enough to eat. I think there's a good education system here. We are privileged in Taiwan for the most part. So this is another family that has life good for them. But you know what? You can look from the outside and say, oh, their life is so easy. They have it so easy. You never know. And money doesn't make everything better. I just want to say that. Money doesn't always help everything.
Right, so again, we've got a poor black boy who's supported by a privileged white family. This could also be described as a genre of film called The White Savior. Those do exist sometimes where there's somebody poor, a poor minority, and they're rescued.
That's a popular woke theory right now, the white savior.
Right, you see that often in movies. I think that, what was that, The Green Book or something was also similar.
The Green Mile?
Well, it's the one about that guy who drives a black guy around the South or something. It was a couple of years ago.
Oh, no, that's not the Green Mile.
I think it won Best Picture, but I can't remember the exact title right offhand.
I will look it up while you're talking.
Okay, very good. And again, that's kind of the theme of this story, but it is a true story. And let's talk about what this term, the blind side, is. I've heard of a blind spot before. A blind spot is when you're driving in your car and you just can't see in a certain direction, like the car I drive has a couple of blind spots in the front with the support of the roof on the left side there, next to the windshield there. I've almost run into people because I just couldn't see pedestrians as I was making a left turn. So that's a blind spot. And people who drive trucks also have blind spots behind them. When they back up, they can't see where they're going. So be careful of that. But this is similar here, the blind side, and that's a term specific to American football. So let's talk about it. In American football, the blind side is usually the quarterback's left side because they turn to the right to pass the ball with their dominant hand. There are various positions in American football. The most important position is the quarterback. He's the guy who gets the ball and passes it to somebody or hands it off to somebody. So he's usually the star of the team. And in this case, he's got a blind side because he gets the ball after the center hikes it to him, and then he drops back to pass the ball. But in order to do that, he has to turn to the right there.
Yep.
And he wants to pass the ball with his dominant hand. Dominant means the stronger one. And in this case, for most quarterbacks, it would be your right hand. It could be the case where their dominant hand is their left hand, but the majority of people are right-handed. So this is going to be a case where he turns to the right, and then his left side is vulnerable, and he's got his dominant hand to the right, ready to pass that ball.
I looked up what you were talking about, Tom. Now, the white savior theme, it's often used in movies, right?
Right.
They use it to talk about how some white person helps a colored person from their troubles and changes their lives, what have you. Two very famous, I think a more famous film than the Green Book that you referred to, not as many people saw that, was the film called The Help. The Help was really popular. Or Hidden Figures, which was about NASA and 3 African-American women because of their math prowess. They were brilliant women. Because of them, they were able to send some astronauts up into space. They made Kevin Costner's character a white savior. And his character didn't even exist in real life. Well, I know from interviews I've seen of Michael Oher, his situation wasn't as dire or horrible as they paint it out, or play it to be, or paint it to be. He likes to focus on the fact that a lot more people than just him are in bad situations, and that we should all be helping each other regardless of what color we are. I like his attitude. He's just out there to help people. He doesn't want the focus to be on himself.
Yeah, keep wanting to see what he did for his siblings. Remember, his siblings were there having a hard time, and his mother, too, who was a drug addict. I hope he helped her out. This doesn't really talk about that so much, but we are focusing now on American football, and the quarterback's left side is vulnerable because his dominant hand is to the right. And again, this leaves the left side exposed and vulnerable to the defense who are coming after him, and they want to tackle him. They want to sack the quarterback. So, of course, he's got to be protected by somebody. And the left tackle is assigned to defend the quarterback's blind side. So that's one of many positions in American football. This one's the left tackle, which is basically somebody who's protecting the left side of the quarterback.
Sometimes we'll use that phrase, someone has a blind side or a blind area or is blind to something. Some people who fall in love are blind to their loved ones, their spouses or their boyfriend, girlfriend, to their faults or flaws. They're just blind to them. They don't see them anymore because they're so in love. So you can have issues if you're having problems with being blind to something that can hurt you eventually. You need to keep looking around and being aware of what's going on. And that's what these quarterbacks trust their offensive lineman to be for them. Someone who can protect them when their blind side is not visible to the quarterback as he's playing. So the left tackle is assigned to defend the quarterback's blind side. That was Michael Orr's position.And since the quarterback is usually the one who is responsible for making sure the team gets some points on the board, the scoreboard I'm talking about, that quarterback usually is very, very valuable to the team and has a very large contract, I must say. If your quarterback gets knocked out, you pretty much lose that season.Okay,
so we've been focusing on the term the blind side when talking about American football, but in the next paragraph it says, the blind side could also refer to the substantial number of unnoticed, disadvantaged youths in American society, or any society for that matter. I haven't really heard this term used that often, but I guess it could be used to refer to lots of people who do have potential, who do have talent, but they're just not noticed. They don't have enough money to go to good schools, so their talents are wasted. And these are unnoticed kids or youths in American society, and they're also disadvantaged, which is kind of the opposite of privileged. If you're privileged, you're in a rich family, they've got connections, they can send you to Harvard or Princeton or Yale or whatever. But if you're disadvantaged, you're lucky if you can go to the local community college.Hey,
you're lucky if you make it out of your neighborhood alive. With the gangs, at least in America, they have a big chance of getting shot or ending up dead because they joined a gang. So children like Michael's brothers and sisters never get the chance to achieve their dreams, at least as far as we know, because they didn't have any support.Everyone in this life needs support. Even those in privileged families, I have to say, they're not always in a great situation either. So if Stephen's dad...Remember, he was the friend that allowed Michael to sleep at his house for quite a while. And when Stephen's grandmother died, then Michael and Stephen were able to go to Briarcrest, that private Christian school. Now, if his dad had not let Michael, go along with his son Stephen and attend Briarcrest, or if the Tuohys had not noticed Michael and then adopted him, he would not have been able to realize his full potential.So if you have enough support, then you don't have to worry about maybe, getting enough food to eat or a place to sleep at night. You can focus on what you want to achieve as a goal and realize your full potential. Your potential is what you have the ability to do or to become.Now, potential, we could talk about the potential of a project, the potential of a young student, the potential of a career. Here we're talking about his full potential as a gifted athlete. He was amazing.
He was indeed, and we're going to continue talking about his career and about other themes and ideas in this book in just a couple of seconds. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们从前天开始跟昨天都带大家看攻其不备，它其实是一个真实故事。那么它的主题就是讲一个贫穷的黑人男孩，在一个享有特权的白人家庭的支持之下，成为一个成功的美式足球员的一个故事。中文就说这么长了，我们来看一下英文，在第一句的地方也蛮长的，可是其实它是一个有关系子句插入的一个句型。先行词是 a poor black boy， 那这里的关系子句其实是限定用法的关系子句，因为我们如果说一个很贫穷的黑人男孩谁要用限定用法，是限定是哪一个，就是 Michael Orr 这一位，所以从 who 到句尾的地方可以左右括号起来，它是限定用法关系子句。那这个电影为什么要叫做 The Blind Side 盲点呢？接下来第二句就很重要了。在美式足球当中，所谓 The Blind Side 盲点这个词的意思，通常指的是在美式足球的四分卫 quarterback 的这个球员，他的左侧就是他的盲点。因为这个四分卫他们会转向右侧，用惯用手来传球 to pass balls。那这个惯用手叫做 dominant hand， 所谓 dominant 就是有主导性的意思。那如果说用惯用手向右侧来传球，那左侧不就空了吗？所以左边这里就是所谓的盲点。那这个盲点会怎么样呢？就会使 四分卫的左侧暴露在外面，就容易受到进攻。也就是说，四分卫的左侧这个盲点是非常 vulnerable 很脆弱的，出现在第一段第3句这个地方。那这样就一定要有球员来帮助啦，所以第4句就出现了另外一个美式足球当中的一个角色，就是左截锋 the left tackle， 它出现在第一段第4句主词的这个地方。这个左截锋就会负责去防守四分卫的这个盲点，而 Michael Oher 在他的美式足球队里面，他的定位就在这里，他就是左截锋。好，那么接下来我们就看到这个盲点啊，为什么电影叫做盲点？难道真的就是左截锋这个角色要特别讨论吗？其实不是盲点其实也可以指的是美国社会当中大量被忽视的弱势青年。那像 Michael 的这种兄弟姐妹这样的孩子啊，其实永远都没有机会来实现自己的梦想，因为他们没有任何的 support。也就是说，如果 Steven 的父亲没有把 Michael 带到Briarcrest， 或者图一家族没有收养 Michael 的话，其实他完全没有办法去发挥他自己的天赋跟潜能。好，那么在今天的文章当中，我们会看到2个地方都有假设语气哦。首先，第一个假设语气就出现在第2段第3句这个地方。所谓英文的假设语气，就是当我们陈述与事实相反的事情的时候，英文的动词会做变化。与现在事实相反，现在的动词就用过去式；与过去事实相反，过去式的动词就用过去完成。所以我们看第2段第3句有3个动作。第一，带 Michael 到 Briarcrest 的这个带。第2个动词是图一家族的收养 adopt。第3个动作是 Michael 能不能 be able to do something 发挥潜能。这3个动作都是与过去事实相反的陈述。所以我们再看一次句子 If Steven's dad had not brought， 有没有带都发生在过去，所以如果没有带，这个要用过去完成。或者是第2个条件 If the Tuohys had not adopted， 有没有收养都是过去的事，所以如果没有收养也会用 had PP。 接下来 Michael 到底能不能 be able to 的 be 动词，能不能发挥潜能，这个都已经发生过去了，所以 be 动词也会用 had been。 可是受到会不会能不能的影响，有一个助动词的 would not， 就导致后面原本的 had been 就会变成 have been。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're on day 3 of our literature unit. We're wrapping this up. We've been focused on the book The Blind Side, which tells the story of Michael Oher, who started out as a poor kid from a bad neighborhood with a mother who was a drug addict and went on to become a very successful NFL football player. So it's a pretty positive book. But today we're also focusing on some of the aspects of the story that people should remember and keep in mind. All of us as human beings we need support. We need to be able to eat and have a place to sleep in order to really realize our full potential to become the people that we were meant to be. Now, when we left you, we were talking about how Steven's dad, if he had not brought Michael along with his son to Briarcrest, or if the Tuohys had not adopted Michael, this story would have turned out very differently. Now, Tom, can you tell us more about what it means to adopt in America, at least?
Well, basically it means you bring a child into your family and they become your legal responsibility, even though they're not your child by blood.
And it's different than a foster parent or a foster home, right?
Right. Foster parents are just taking care of them sort of temporarily, and they're not legally the guardians of the children.
The government is, and the government is paying all of these foster parents some money every month to take care of these kids.
And maybe eventually the foster family can adopt the child. But here we've got the Tuohys, and they actually adopted Michael. They became his legal guardian, so he's basically a member of their family. And had they not adopted Michael, he would not have been able to realize his full potential.
Right.
And his size makes him noticeable. Many agree that he was born to play football. So indeed, if you're quite large, you are quite noticeable. This, unfortunately, is the case for me here in Taiwan, as I'm over 6 feet tall. That's taller than the average, and I'm somewhat overweight. I'm also a white guy, so I'm just very noticeable here. People look at me all the time, especially if I'm outside of Taipei. And so in this particular case, Michael is quite large. He's 200 centimeters tall. I'm not quite that tall myself, but still 200 centimeters in height is quite tall. And he's big, he's stocky, he's burly, he's muscular. So, of course, he's noticeable, which means you're easily seen or easily noticed.
Yeah, but it says here, many kids in Hurt Village, that's the name of the place where Michael grew up. Kind of a sad name for a village. What if they had been born with talents, musical talents that hadn't been trained or hadn't been exposed yet? Maybe some of the people that he grew up with had a chance or, had the possibility of becoming very good at piano or becoming very good at something like physics, which is really tough, I must say. But the sad thing is society, those of us who are, in whatever country, community, some of us are blind to the people needing help and needing support. And so this is one way the title of the book, The Blind Side, could apply to what's going on in our society. It's not just not seeing, from your left side or right side as a quarterback, but being blind to people around us who really are needing help and support.
They do, but of course, lots of people don't want the extra competition, so they like to keep these people away from them, and they like to keep them oppressed and things like that. And here in the final paragraph, it says, racism is also prevalent throughout Michael's life. Racism is when you discriminate against people because of their ethnic background. The most common form of racism we hear about is white people treating other people badly, like black people, Hispanics, or whatever. That's what racism is. But it can occur from other groups to other groups. It's just that the white on black racism seems to be the most prevalent.
Yeah, but there's racism between countries, as we've seen that too. I remember when I first got here a long time ago, the Korean students were telling me that there was a lot of racism here. Every place has problems. There's racism in Africa, blacks on blacks. So it's just really important to remember that just because someone belongs to a particular race, or we're seeing it even in religions, or what have you, a different class of people, we all need to remember we're all people, human beings, that need to be treated as we want to be treated ourselves. That's the golden rule, right? Do unto others what you would have be done unto you. So treat others the way you want to be treated. But sadly, racism still is very prevalent, and we see him acknowledge that because of his status as a football player. Most people treat him differently than the average person that maybe you would run into at Hurt Village. Anytime someone has money and fame, they no longer have to worry about other problems that just normal people have to deal with. And he acknowledges this. Now, if you acknowledge something, you just say, yeah, what you're saying is true. You accept or admit something, usually the existence of something or the truth about a certain situation. You can acknowledge a lot of things. You can, acknowledge somebody. Maybe you're giving a speech. This is a way you could acknowledge you. You're giving a speech and you look out into the crowd and you see someone you know and you want to acknowledge their presence. Say, oh, my mentor, showed up. My favorite professor, stand up. You're acknowledging them. You're letting people know that you know who they are. But here, you're just you're saying that I understand that I'm treated better because I'm a rich athlete. Yeah, I get that. And I'm treated better than most other African Americans that are poor and in bad circumstances. He knows that. I think that's why he started his own charitable foundation called Beat the Odds to help kids. And he loves kids, to help kids who started out in a bad situation, and you don't necessarily have to be black to start out in a very poor, sad situation. He wants to help kids realize their full potential.
Indeed, and remember, racism is prevalent throughout the story of his life, so he admits that that's the case. He acknowledges that. Because of his status as a football star, most people treat him differently. Maybe they treated him in a different way from how they would treat the white players on the team or something like that, and Briarcrest most likely would not have allowed him in if he had not been a promising athlete. Now, that might be true. Of course, lots of schools bring people in because, hey, he's a good athlete, we should bring him in, even though he doesn't really perform well academically. We still want him in here because, hey, it's very important for our college's football team to win. It's because of the moolah, the money.
Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made off college sports, and that's why they would want these kids, right, who have amazing athletic ability or prowess. So most people do. They notice his size first, but the Tuohys are different. The Tuohys just loved Michael's heart. And you see that in the movie. He's a good kid. He's a nice kid, and they want to protect him. They don't care that he's good at football, to be honest. So they noticed his, but they also noticed his emotional needs. What he needs love from people. Not just money. He needs love and support and interest. You know, when you go to someone's game, that means a lot. So their generosity and kindness allow them to care for Michael, even though many people are still unkind to him. The story of Michael Orr is a reminder that everyone deserves a chance in life, and that's it. Everybody does deserve a chance in life. So if you're talking about being generous, that's the adjective form. Generosity is the quality of being kind and having an open heart. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to give money, but you are giving of your time and you're being compassionate and caring about other people.
Yep, generosity, and of course he was able to succeed because of the generosity of the Tuohy family and other people along the way. That brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Let's listen to our Chinese teacher now.
所以接下来我们就看到第三段，另外一个主题就是所谓的种族歧视 racism。 那当然这个种族歧视在美国几乎到现在还是会有一些状况啦。可是我们要强调的是第三段第二句，来又有一个假设语气。这个假设语气说，如果 Michael 不是一个有前途的运动员，那么 Briarcrest 可能就不会让他入学。好，先看一下这整句话当中有两个动作。第一个动作，允不允许他入学 allow。 第二个动作，他是不是有潜力，又是 be 动词。那它都是两个过去的事情嘛，因为这个故事都发生在过去，所以我们看到这整个句子，先看到结果 Briarcrest most likely 很有可能不会接受他，会不会要带助动词 would not 也要用过去式，接不接受与过去式相反，所以 had allowed 变成 have allowed。 接下来条件，如果它不是那么 promising 的话，是不是的 be 动词要用 had pp 嘛，再加上不是这个 not， 所以我们看到 if he had not been a promising athlete。 好，所以其实呢，在这一次的第三天的文章当中，我们就要特别注意两个假设语气。那么除了这个 Michael 的体型啊，跟这个大部分都会去注意到之外，图一家人其实有特别注意到他的情感需求。所以其实 Michael Owen 的故事就是提醒我们，每个人的一生其实都值得拥有一个机会，希望社会都可以做到照顾弱势这样的一个责任。我是 Anna， 我们下次见。
That's it for today. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy our next program when it comes up. We're going to have a great time, aren't we? From all of us here at English Digest, my name is Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
See ya.